Gettysburg address. When the general gets back to Washington, he has a meeting with the incoming commander-in-chief. He'll be giving President-elect Clinton a military briefing. Mr. Clinton is also meeting with congressional leaders from both sides of the aisle today. President Bush has left the White House in a hurry to visit his ailing mother in Connecticut. White House spokesman Marlin Fitzwater says the president decided last night to make the sudden trip. And today is the Great American Smokeout Day. It marks the 16th year of the American Cancer Society's effort to get Americans 50 million smokers to kick the habit, at least for one day. The News 8 forecast cloudy with a high in the upper 40s. And now, Thursday Live with C.S. Keys and Larry Borkholder.
WGAL TV Channel 8 presents Live with your hosts Laurie Burkholder and C.S. Keys.
Good morning. As you know, every Thursday we go out, we celebrate the outdoors, and we're on the road right now. We're in Gettysburg at the Gettysburg National Cemetery.
Yes, and we're also celebrating a very special day. It was 129 years ago today that Abraham Lincoln gave his famous speech, the Gettysburg Address, and we're celebrating it right now.
That's right. And because WGAL has a very, very unique show live, we can do things right on the spot as it happens, and we give it to you as soon as we get it.
Yep, and now we're going to join the ceremony. Right now, the person that you're going to hear speaking is Dr. Charles Gladfelter. Now, he is the Vice President of the Lincoln Fellowship, and he's about to introduce to us the guest of honor. Let's join him.
Part of each year's exercises, they would make what they called a pilgrimage to the National Cemetery. It is in order once more to carry out that resolve made more than half a century ago that we are here today. Over the years since 1938, that pilgrimage has taken different forms, but always it has tried to foster rededication to the goals of national union and human freedom, for which eventually the American Civil War was fought. Whatever form it has followed, the pilgrimage has attracted to Gettysburg on successive anniversaries a truly remarkable group of persons who have shared with the Lincoln Fellowship and its friends in the commemoration. Included among them have been cabinet officers, United States congressmen, high court justices, both federal and state, military figures, governors, state legislators, ambassadors, and nationally known historians and writers. Governor Adlai Stevenson of Illinois was here in 1951. Writer Carl Sandburg spoke in his inimitable way in 1959. General Dwight D. Eisenhower rededicated this cemetery in 1963. Historian John Hope Franklin was here in 1965, and William H. Rehnquist, Chief Justice of the United States, led the 125th anniversary commemoration in 1988. The local newspaper reported that Rehnquist spoke as an icy rain fell. And those of you who were here on that day know that is precisely what happened. It was worse than today. We're pleased to continue today the practice begun in 1938 and followed so nobly by those who have preceded us. Our speaker is a native of New York City, born the year before the Lincoln Fellowship of Pennsylvania was founded. You, sir, are older than the Lincoln Fellowship. Graduated by City College of New York. After participating in its ROTC program, he was commissioned as second lieutenant in the regular Army. In the 1960s, he served two tours of duty in Vietnam, and in the 1970s, one in Korea. Beginning in 1974, his military career included staff and command responsibilities as well as continuing education. In 1987, President Ronald Reagan chose him to be Deputy National Security Advisor, and late in that year, he succeeded Frank Carlucci as National Security Advisor and became one of the chief defense advisors to the President in the White House. 3 years ago, in the fall of 1989, President George Bush appointed our Speaker chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the 12th person to hold that position since its creation during the reorganization of the American defense establishment, which followed World War II. He was also the youngest thus far to occupy it, and his current responsibilities make him one of the President's principal military advisors. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege and honor to present to you General Colin L. Powell, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Department of Defense. General Powell.
Thank you, sir, for that kind introduction. Thank you very much, sir, for that most kind introduction. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your warm reception on this somewhat chilly, rainy, but yet in its own way beautiful day. President Roach, Congressman Goodling, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and most especially the boys and girls here today, I am honored, very honored, to be with you. I want to thank the Lincoln Fellowship of Pennsylvania for inviting me, and more importantly, for continuing this great tradition, commemorating the anniversary of the Gettysburg Address and the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery. This is a very special ceremony, and I am pleased that we have such a wonderful group of people in such a perfect setting for it. Historians tell us that they cannot identify the exact spot from which Abraham Lincoln delivered his brief remarks, but all of us here should imagine that we are very, very close to where our beloved president actually stood on that day. Being so close, we are profoundly moved, and our memories are vividly concentrated. We are mindful of the battlefield, the monuments, the National Cemetery, the sheer immensity of it all. We are engulfed in a crucial moment in American history. In the fields and on the hills around us, two mighty American armies clashed head-on in the fearsome struggle that would be the turning point of our Civil War. A Civil War that took the lives of more Americans than all of our other wars combined. Many of those brave Americans fell here at Gettysburg. Pennsylvanians and Virginians, New Yorkers and Georgians, farmers from North Carolina, farmers from Indiana. 10,000 men fell here, never again to see the dawn of another day. Altogether, there were 51,000 casualties. The battle's names, the battle's places are burned indelibly into our minds. Joshua Chamberlain, Robert E. Lee, George G. Meade, James Longstreet, Cemetery Ridge, the Devil's Den, Little Round Top, the Valley of Death, Pickett's Charge, Gettysburg. Gettysburg. The very name breathes our history. The very name signals us to be still, to be reverent. We are confronting ourselves in the mirror of time. Time's mirror reminds us of the awful tragedy of war. So many young men who would never grow up. So many women whose husbands and sons would never embrace them again. So much sacrifice, so much pain, so much loss, and the terrible fury of those 3 days here at Gettysburg. The end of the third decisive day of the battle, Lieutenant Jesse Bowman Young of the Union Army's 3rd Corps wrote these words in a letter back home. The next morning was the 4th of July, but it seemed at the time a somber and terrible national anniversary with the indescribable horrors of the field before the eye in every direction. The Army did not know the extent of the